on who have the priestly service in the newly rebuilt temple without, I believe, disturbing the Mosque of Omar, aka the Dome of the Rock. And then you will have the three major world religions all under one banner and under the control of the Antichrist. You'll have the Friday people, Islam. You'll have the Saturday people, the Jews, Shabbat, their Sabbath. And then you'll have the Sunday people, a form of Christianity / Catholicism. And all three of these religions, whom all are headquartered in Jerusalem, will now form what the world will call and know as not only this new world order, but this one world religion that becomes a part of this new world order. The third on their top 10 is a global financial crisis. Please understand, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's not going to get any better financially. In fact, it's going to get worse. It is really a foregone conclusion that not just with the US dollar, but all of the global currencies will collapse, must collapse, in order for there to be a one world economic system. Because, see, they're going to have to receive a mark, without which no man will be able to buy or sell economically. See? So, right now, the U.S. is in the way, and I believe it is by design. The destruction of the U.S. dollar is by design, and that's why just last week, gold reached record highs, almost $1,200 an ounce, the first time in history. But gold will not be the standard. It will be a one-world economic, cashless system that will come under the control of the Antichrist. The fourth one, and we talked about this at great length. In fact, we devoted our entire prophecy update last week to this one. It's the cooling relationship between the U.S. and Israel. And we're seeing now how this administration has turned its back on Israel. But I believe that God foretold that this would take place, because in the pages of Scripture, I do not find the United States of America. Not only do I not find the U.S. coming to support Israel, I don't find the U.S. So what happens to the U.S.? Well, they might just fall into the backdrop of obscurity and be categorized with all the other nations. The rapture of the church could gut out the U.S., or we could merge with, according to the peace and prosperity agreement, with Canada and Mexico. That would sure take care of our border problem. And we would just become a North American Union, like the European Union. And so the U.S. is really not present in Bible prophecy, but this absence of the United States will force Israel to turn to their God. And I believe they will do it. And we read and we know, according to Romans, that the whole house of Israel will be saved. They will come to salvation in the midst of the tribulation, the whole nation, which you know is the purpose of the tribulation, salvation of the Jewish nation. Okay. The fifth one, China's growing economic and military might. You might remember from our prophecy series titled The Perfect Prophetic Storm that we did this last summer. The China connection. China plays a huge role in Bible prophecy, and we see them basically shy of owning the United States of America. You know that, right? You know that? If you don't, you need to know that. Basically, China, for the most part, is buying all of our debt, and it was China who earlier this year said maybe the U.S. dollar isn't what we should be using as the standard. Maybe we should look at the euro. Then later this year, with the Arabs not wanting to use the U.S. dollar to buy oil because the dollar is collapsing. And again, I believe by design. The seventh one, a global currency, and that's why the U.S. dollar is collapsing and destined by design to be destroyed so it can usher in a one world monetary system. The seventh one on their top 10 is national ID initiatives. Hey, listen, ID theft, it's going to get worse. But if you have a chip in your forehead, I'm not recommending this, by the way, But if you have a chip implanted in your forehand or your forehead, how are they going to steal your ID? They have to chop your hand off and then, run it through the cash. Well, your head, how they get, no. See, it takes care of it. It takes care of it. And all the world can be controlled by this chip, you see. Frank has really studied this and for many years talked about, how it's going to be that, the technology is already there and it's just a matter of time before the world accepts it. And they will. Initially it'll be of our own, not our own, their own volition. Eventually it'll be mandatory because we're told that he causes all men, great and small, poor and rich, to take this mark. But there goes child abductions. There goes Alzheimer patients wandering off. Some have suggested that this chip will be readily accepted after the rapture because we won't worry about, well, what if I disappear? In other words, it's a tracking device as well. You'll always know where somebody is at all times. Number 8, Russia's military aggression. We talk about this every time we study Ezekiel 38, and we study Ezekiel 38 very often, by the way. Number 9, the U.S. national debt load. For those of you who watch Fox News, have you noticed how that they're basically the only news channel? And by the way, they are a news channel. Just wanted to let you know that. Contrary to some opinions, but they are a news channel, and the Fox News channel seems to be the only news channel that is telling the truth about how much money we're spending just to service the national debt. Do you realize that at some point it will be unserviceable? I don't know if unserviceable is a word, but I just know that our national debt will be unserviceable. And what will happen is our economy will collapse. And you could go to bed one night with $1,000 in your bank account, and wake up and the next morning it's worth $10 because of our 10th one, according to Rapture Ready, and that is inflation. See, what they do is they start printing more money. And pretty soon, the money becomes so worthless that if you had a wheelbarrow of money just stacked full of $100 bills, the wheelbarrow would be worth more than the money. Some of you are looking at me just like, man, this is so depressing. Well, hopefully it will be depressing. Now hear me out. See, when you look at what's happening, it forces you to realize that the things of this world are passing away. And it forces us to loosen our grip on the things of this world. This is not our home. We are pilgrims in honor of Thanksgiving. We are nomads. We are Bedouins. Can I use this term? In some translations it's used, we are aliens. In other words, this is not our home. We come from a place far, far away. We were not created for time. We were created for eternity, you see. I wonder, and I've shared this before, but I wonder if this is not God's way of saying to us, wake up and look up, because your redemption draweth nigh. And if your treasure is here on earth, then so too will your heart be here on earth, like Jesus said in Matthew's gospel. It's recorded, the 6th chapter. See, if my treasure's there, then that's where my heart is. We have that saying, heart is where the home is. Is that how it goes? I probably completely botched it, but you'll forgive me, but you get the point. Well, if my home is there, then that's where my heart is. But if my home is here, then that's where my heart is. You know, I've been sensing the Lord leading me in the direction of doing a teaching on Matthew 6 and identifying both the causes and cures of worry and fear. You show me a Christian whose home is there, And I'll show you a Christian who has no